You're thinking about playing D&D, but you're a little daunted by the textbook that is apparently required reading to play. Well, I got good news. About 90% of this book is about customizing your character and explaining how those customizations work. You don't need to learn all that. You just need to know the basic rules, and they are so simple you can learn them in a few minutes. In the next few minutes, in fact. If you know nothing about D&D, I'm going to teach you how it works right now. If you do know how D&D works, or you're an experienced dungeon master, and you've got a new player joining your game, send them this video and I'll explain the basics for you. Welcome to Mystic Arts. My name is Daði. I'm a professional writer and director, and I've been DMing for over 10 years. Dungeons & Dragons is a pen and paper role-playing game, which means it's a game where you play a role, but you don't play this game on the computer. You play it with pen and paper, the kind of stuff that's in front of you. It's kind of like a board game, but not really. Often, there is no board, and the whole thing happens just in your head. Each game has some number of players, usually around 4 or 5, but those numbers can vary, and usually one Dungeon Master. The Dungeon Master plays the world and the people in it. They do this by using an adventure, either one they bought, got for free, or made themselves just for you. This video isn't about being a Dungeon Master, but the rest of this channel is, so if that's what you're interested in, go check out the rest of our videos and start reading the Running the Game section in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Players, meanwhile, each play a character. They can create these characters themselves, which is a bit of a process. I'll outline it in next week's video, link somewhere if it's out right now. But they also play these characters using 2 of the core mechanics of D&D, dice and features. Your character has a set of features that determine how and when you roll dice, and or what you add to the result of the die to arrive at your total. Everything you find in the core rulebooks is based off of these basics, whether it's monsters, equipment, or your magic spells if your character knows how to do magic. One thing that's important to understand is in play, D&D is 3 different kinds of games in a trench coat: exploration, dialogue, and combat. Exploration is the default game mode. Your DM describes where you are, what you see, asks you what your player wants to do. In exploration, there's no strict turn order and you can try anything. Let's say you're playing in a tavern. That's technically exploration. There's people to talk to, an innkeep to interact with, a grand piano with a curse on it, and a trap door to one of the rooms. Yeah, that's an exploration scene. Maybe you go talk to the innkeep. Maybe you discover a trap or find rats in the basement. Anything is possible. Exploration is the common ground that brings you into the 2 other types of scenes, combat and dialogue. If you go talk to the innkeep, the scene might change into a dialogue scene. Your DM might start talking in character with a silly voice, or maybe they pretend to clean a dirty glass that isn't there. You can use that as an opportunity to talk to this character. Maybe you speak in first person and say, "Hello, innkeeper, how much is a room?" Maybe you're more comfortable with talking in third person and you say, "I ask the innkeeper how much a room costs." You might over time feel more comfortable to do the silly voice and talk in first person and doing all that, but maybe not. Millions of people play this game and never talk in character despite playing it for years. That's just how they like it. It's not wrong, it's just different. I prefer talking in character. We do a lot of it at my table, but sometimes a dialogue doesn't need to be a scene, so we just summarize it. I go to the innkeep and I buy us a few rooms. Okay, that'll cost you 3 silver. I pay him and take the keys. Done. Why would we need to do that in character? It'll add nothing. But we can, and it's not wrong. Maybe you found those rats, or maybe the doors of the tavern burst open and a band of goblins charge into the bar to do some murder. And then we're going into combat. We know combat is starting because the DM says, roll for initiative. Initiative is how we determine who goes first and who goes next and who goes last and so on. Rolling for initiative, like most rolls in D&D, is rolling a d20 and adding your initiative bonus. It's an ability check. The DM sorts the results in ascending order. I do this on my DM screen, but you can do it with a notepad, and then we fight. In combat, the game is a lot less free form. You only get to do stuff on your turn. On your turn, you move your character and take an action, but if you have a bonus action, you can do that as well. And then your turn is over, and the others get to go. Maybe the goblins go and they run up to you and stab you. And you might ask, can I try to not get stabbed? I hear newbies ask that a lot, but your character is always trying to not get stabbed. The goblins just have to hit your armor class, which is a number that represents how hard it is to stab you. And when you try to stab a goblin, you hit their armor class. They don't get a roll to see if they don't get stabbed. If you want to try extra hard to not get stabbed, you would need to take the dodge action on your turn. but then you can't take offensive actions because you chose to dodge instead. So there's a thing called a dodge action. There's all kinds of actions. And again, if you want to find them, you can go into the rules glossary and look them up. The playing the game chapter in here as well covers a lot of this stuff. If you only read one section, read the playing the game section at the start of this book, then you can go look into your character. Another thing you might have to do is to make a saving throw, which is like a roll to not get screwed by someone. Honestly, combat is a whole video on its own we'll have to deal with later, but things go round the initiative until it's all over, which is usually when all the bad guys are dead or run away. All rolls in the game are either D20 tests, meaning you roll a D20 to check something. They're not always this big. This one is for showcase purposes. Or there's some kind of other roll. Those other kinds specify what die they use, like how Second Wind says roll a D10, or how weapon damage tells you what die to use, or spells specify what die to roll. Reading the rules explains the rules. All D20 tests are one of three kinds. Ability checks, which is like climbing stuff, breaking stuff, talking to people. It's stuff you're trying to do that isn't an attack roll. Attack rolls, which add an attack modifier and is trying to hit an armor class. That's when you try to hit somebody and they're wearing armor, and that's how you check to see if you hit. Then there's saving throws, which is like trying not to get screwed by the enemy. Spells targeting you make you do a save. There is no save that you choose to do. It's always in reaction to something else. Although technically you are allowed to decide to fail a saving throw, but that's usually a bad idea. All creatures in D&D have 6 stats. They're called ability scores or ability modifiers, or as I call them, the big number and the small number. This is a weird holdover from older editions of the game from back when lead was in paint and asbestos was in walls. No wonder they did things kind of funny. Basically, the big number is just a reference to tell you what the little number is. There's a page in the player's handbook that tells you how to use it and how it works. There's a common analogy here about tomatoes and stats that I'm certain experienced DMs would scold me for using, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Strength is your ability to crush a tomato. Dexterity to hit someone with a tomato you threw. Constitution is your ability to stomach a tomato that's gone bad. Intelligence is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting tomatoes in a fruit salad. And charisma is rebranding the tomato-based fruit salad as salsa and selling it for a fortune on the open market. There's more to it. Wisdom, for instance, has a lot to do with awareness and nature. Charisma is your force of personality in a magical sense as well. And Constitution is also how long you can hold your breath or how many hit points you get, your health. Nearly every fact of your character eventually checks back to your stats. So you get a feature and it says, go look at this stat and apply those numbers. Just remember to read those abilities and remember that reading the rules explains the rules. Your character gets features from their class, called class abilities, from their species, called traits, or their background, which includes a feat, a special sort of feature you get as well. That can sound like a lot, but we'll break it all down. Where your features come from, however, is a topic for creating a character section, but let me tell you how to read a feature. Here's a feature, unarmored defense. While you aren't wearing any armor, your base armor class equals 10 plus your dexterity and constitution modifier. You can use a shield and still gain this benefit. If you've never done gaming like this before, these things can seem a little confusing or maybe archaic, or maybe like the words are meant to mean something but they don't to you. But basically any text in any feature boils down to 3 kinds of things: rules, clarifications, flavor, and then there are some connecting words. Here I've highlighted rules green and clarifications yellow. You have a thing called armor class normally. But this new rule clarifies that while you aren't wearing armor, that base armor class thing you have is calculated differently. Your armor is now 10 plus 2 stat modifiers, both dexterity and constitution. This feature still works with a shield, because a shield isn't wearing armor, apparently. You will find things like this that every now and again you start to wonder what is the game, but this rule says that you can use it with a shield, so you can. The clarification here about the shield is there to avoid confusion. Now, explaining the rules like that, I really did just reread the rule. That's honestly how it's done. Reading the rules explains the rules. They may look deceptively simple, like this common 5th level feature. Extra attack. You can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. You might wonder, is there a limit? Well, no, it doesn't specify a limit, so there isn't a limit. You might think, I read that I can only attack once according to the attack action. You're right, that's a general rule, but this is an exception, and it supersedes the general rule. You might think, can I do this when I make an opportunity attack? No, the rule clarifies itself by saying on your turn at the end. You might think, I didn't think any of those things, I'm brand new, Daði. Well, fair. But sometimes you read these bits and you get a little confused, so we'll continue to explain here. Let's start by doing a slightly more involved feature, Action Surge. You can push yourself beyond your normal limits for a moment. On your turn, you could take one additional action, except the magic action. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. Starting at level 17, you can use it twice before a rest, but only once on a turn. This one's also highlighted. It's a little different. It starts with some flavor text. I've italicized it. You can push yourself beyond your normal limits for a moment. That part of the feature isn't a rule. It's just explaining why you can break the normal rules of the game. You can push yourself. It's just flavor text. Then it says on your turn, meaning you can only do this on your turn. That's not terribly complicated. You can take an additional action. Normally in D&D, you just get one action, but this is an extra action. This is an important lesson. Features break the normal rules. They let you do stuff you can't normally do. So if you read a rule saying you can only take one action, but this more specific feature says you can do Action Surge to get another action, then the more specific rule wins out. Exceptions always supersede general rules. Finally, you can see the second paragraph of Action Surge says you can only do it once before you have to rest. It's also got a rider about what happens at 17th level. We obviously understand that that doesn't apply to you until you're 17th level. Sometimes these features might say something that tells you that they're messing with the dice. Check out this feature, Reckless Attack. You can throw aside all concern for defense to attack with an increased ferocity. When you make your first attack roll on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly. Doing so gives you advantage on attack rolls using strength until the start of your next turn. But attack rolls against you have advantage during that time. Advantage is a rule. You roll 2 dice and pick the higher result. It's a good thing to get, but others get it on you if you attack recklessly. This is not a general rule. Barbarians get this and nobody else. It's what makes them special. That and rage. Also, interestingly enough, this feature just made up a new rule in the middle of it. It creates a new term, recklessness, as a rule, and it says you can use it to have advantage on all attack rolls, but others have advantage on you to simulate being reckless. But how can I tell that advantage is a rule and not flavor? In this case, because it's capitalized. It's telling you that it's probably in the index, or in this case, in the rules glossary. The rules glossary is at the back of the player's handbook. It's a big chapter that explains these capitalized words that appear throughout the rules. That's your secret weapon. When you encounter a word you think might be a mechanic, look it up in the rules glossary. Let's look at one more feature. Second Wind. You have a limited well of physical and mental stamina you can draw on. As a bonus action, you can use it to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. You can use this feature twice. You regain 1 expended use when you finish a short rest, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. When you reach certain fighter levels, you gain more uses of this feature as shown in the Second Wind column of the fighter features table. Okay, that's a lot of stuff going on here. Like how it recharges when your features get stronger, telling you how to look at the table in the book, but I want to talk about that dice notation, 1d10. That's telling you that you pick a die with 10 sides. This is how the game tells you what dice to use. Here is a helpful graph. There are countless features in the game, and this book is full of them. That's almost all of what's in here, but you just need to know your features from your class, your species, your background. And I don't even mean remember them verbatim. You just have to have them in front of you and be ready to diagnose the text and figure out how it works. If you can't figure it out, you can always ask the table and see if someone else can't help you figure it out. The good thing is, if you're starting at level 1, which you should if you're brand new, then you've only got a handful of features. You'll get more as you level up. Worry about them when you get them. For now, just copy down your abilities and be prepared to look them up. I like to have the books in front of me. The thing with learning D&D is that no one video can explain it to you. And I think no 50 videos can explain it to you. It isn't a thing you can explain. It happens in not just your mind, but in the collective mind of the group of people who are hallucinating fantasy worlds together. It's highly personal. If you want more advice, you can go watch more on YouTube. Maybe watch an actual play like Critical Role or Dimension 20, but the best thing you can do is get a group together and start playing now. Learn as you go. That's the only way to properly get it. You'll get a bunch of stuff wrong, but over time, you'll learn and it'll be fun the entire way through. So if you're sitting there on the toilet or in traffic thinking, easy for you to say homely Matthew Broderick, but I don't know anyone to play with. Well, I don't believe that. You can play with your aunt and your nephew, or your coworkers, or you can find some people somewhere that are, kind of nerdy, and then make them fully nerdy by getting them involved. But if you're convinced that's not going to work, you can play online. But that comes with its own basket of troubles, like scheduling being a headache, nobody wanting to GM, or gambling on finding cool GMs online that aren't a bunch of weirdos. Most of them aren't, but you do get some weirdos. Well, there's a solution for that too. The website startplaying.games is the largest game finding service online, and they're sponsoring this video. It has thousands of games you can instantly find across countless systems like D&D, Pathfinder, Brindlewood Bay, Blades in the Dark, or Daggerheart. It's used and trusted by more than 80,000 players worldwide of all experience levels. And you can find games that fit your schedule, find GMs that are welcoming and diverse people that look and sound like you or are welcoming to a diverse group of people. All guaranteed by their verified reviews where you can see what GMs come recommended. You could jump in fast, sign up for a game today, and you could play tonight. Stop wasting time and finally start playing by going to startplaying.games or use the link in the description. And that's where we'll pick it up next time. Thanks so much for watching this video. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend, and if you found this video interesting, go check out our Getting Started playlist here on YouTube, and we'll cover all the basics over the course of that series. You could also become a channel member or join our Patreon and get access to the Discord, where a community of DMs can help you get started yourself. Until next time, keep studying the mystic arts.